Thank you so much, all the attendees, for joining us today. I'll just take a minute more before we begin our sessions for today. Can I request my team to start playing the videos? Thank you so much, all the attendees, for virtually acknowledging it. It's really motivating. Please keep doing that. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. I hope you all had a great networking time.
Yes, thank you.
Can I request my team to please start playing the videos?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the videos. Thank you so much, all the attendees, for the virtual emojis. It's really motivating. Please continue to do so. So, hello everyone. A very good afternoon. Xin chao chao gui ziu to lan. I'm Sangeeta, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group to our virtual conference on Vietnam Solar Week 2021. Let me brief you a little on Vietnam. Vietnam plans to increase renewable energy mix about to 21% by 2030. Vietnam has installed more than 9 gigawatts of solar rooftop and 1.5 gigawatts of utility scale solar in 2020. Vietnam has seen 100-fold since solar power over the last 2 years and now ranks 7th in the world in terms of total installed capacity. The 2 day virtual conference today will provide a 360-degree outlook of Vietnam's solar sector. Attendees, please note we would be again having a networking break for 15 minutes after the first panel discussion. And in the end of the conference, we'll be again having a networking break for 1 hour, wherein you can meet and greet your exhibitors at their table, take a seat, and connect with them over an audio or a video call. I would like to thank our sponsors, Platinum Partner Trina Solar and Pixon Green Energy Private Limited, Gold Partner PV Diagnostics, Silver Partner Ultra Mounting Solutions, and supporting partner Baker McKenzie for joining us today. Now, without wasting much time, let's begin with our first presentation on current regulatory outlook for Vietnam's solar sector by Mr. Tan Hai Nguyen, who is a special counsel, energy, mining, and infrastructure from Baker McKenzie, Vietnam. So the screen is all yours. Wishing you all a great time ahead. Thank you so much for joining us once again. So you can start with your presentation. You can start sharing your screen. Thank you so much, all the attendees. Please continue with your emojis. It's really motivating. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see my presentation slide? Okay now?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope everyone is staying safe and doing well. Thank you, First View Media Venture again for having me today. My name is Thanh Hải Nguyen. I'm a special counsel focusing on energy and infrastructure project at Baker McKenzie, Vietnam. So on the agenda today, my presentation for day one would be focusing on solar farm. So I will be updating on first solar energy under the new draft National Power Development Plan number 8. Second, solar auction bidding mechanism draft decision from the MOIT of Vietnam. Third is a corporate synthetic virtual direct power purchase agreement pilot program under the draft circular as a key legal mechanism going forward. So first, I would like to say some words around the growth of Vietnam solar market in Vietnam in the past 3 years. I think everyone know very well renewable energy, particularly solar, had been developed rapidly in Vietnam during the past 2 years due to the Fit 1, Fit 2 solar program. Not just for solar farm, but also rooftop solar attract a lot of private sector investment, including foreign investor throughout the program. So now Vietnam remains Southeast Asia most attractive energy growth market in the region with significant capacity add-on recently. So the recent power development plan demonstrate the promising development of the solar in Vietnam. So we are going to discuss today about the solar power specific development target under the draft PDPAs. As you can see on the slide right now, Vietnam is now working on developing and finalizing the draft of Power Development Plan number 8 for the period 2021 and 2030 with a vision to 2045. Uh, and as you may know, based on the most recent proposal from MYT to the government, basically proposed for about 7 gigawatt to 26 gigawatt by 2025, accounting about 16 to 22% of the total energy mix. So this is an addition of 600 megawatt to 9.6 gigawatt compared to the current sale of 2021. And by 2030, the capacity will be increased more, about 18 gigawatt to 31 gigawatt by 2030, so that the solar energy can account about 13.5 to 18 point nine of the total energy mix. So this is another addition of 1.4 to 5.4 gigawatt compared to 2025. Going further, by 2045, then the capacity will be increased to 55 to 1 gigawatt, so that it can account up to 20% of the total energy mix. And again, this is a large amount of addition of 26 to 40 gigawatt compared to 2030. So recently, on 17th July 2021, the government have a meeting discussing on the PDPAs and review, have some more instruction to MYT to review and update the draft. So MYT and the government of Vietnam have done a fantastic job on updating and trying to accommodate many of the stakeholder comment and propose mechanism. So right now, the amended draft PDPA is still in the process for further update for finalization. Everyone may expect that will be issued very soon, but in the meantime, it's still in the draft form to be finalized. Now, I would like to highlight some of the key important things in the draft PDPA, because it is 100 to few hundred pages of report, but I would like to highlight some of the key points. Throughout the report for PDPAs, we can see that MYT provide for certain key mechanism going forward after PDPA is approved. One of the key mechanisms for solar is competitive auction or bidding mechanism for renewable, including solar farm. And I will be briefing in more detail in the next slide. Separately, improving to develop a competitive power market, including another mechanism for corporate synthetic direct PPA, for which I will also briefing in more detail later. The government of Vietnam also have planned to develop new mechanism for attract more capital investment in the power energy sector in Vietnam. So from a legal perspective, as you can see, one of the key items on the agenda right now is to amend the electricity law to meet the requirement of power development in the new period, including create more favorable conditions to attract more investment capital from the society and also the private sector. As you know, due to the operation of the power system with the highly integrated renewable energy sources recently. So like many other countries in the Asia Pacific, Vietnam also have a plan to develop a comprehensive law on renewable energy now on the agenda to create a stable and sustainable legal framework for investment in the coming time. And the law on energy efficiency is another agenda item to be reviewed for further improvement. And as you can see, the grid capacity one of important topic right now in Vietnam. And so further transmission grid investment also proposed in the draft report PDPAs. Similarly, certain mechanism for battery energy storage, particularly on how to add them into the bidding process for operating solar farm or newly proposed solar farm, also been discussed. And developing of new mechanism for power development and investment on a new period, it needs certain collaboration between many stakeholders and state authority to implement the PDPA. That's the key point. So now I'm going to move to speak about specific legal mechanism relevant to solar farm at Day1 focus. So I understand that rooftop solar will be separately discussed tomorrow. For solar farm, the key upcoming immediate legal mechanism right now is solar auction mechanism and synthetic corporate DPPA pilot program. First, I would like to discuss about auction mechanism. MYT have done a very fantastic job so far, studying various international best practice of auction mechanism in many countries in the world, with the support from many stakeholders to update several rounds of draft private decision. As you know, solar auction mechanism is still a new mechanism when we transition from FIT regime to auction mechanism. But on the other hand, we need to balance about how to use and inherit the current legal framework. So that is a very important point in terms of strategy. The MYT are now working on with others, authority and stakeholder on that draft PM decision on bidding mechanism. And certain solar auction model have been discussed quite a while, going through several versions of draft, and with a focus on solar park model and substation-based model, take into account different role of MYT or provincial people committee and EVN during the bidding process. So the first model to be considered actually right now is the MYT to consider the very first model similar to solar park bidding mechanism, whereby the people committee of the province will take the lead of bidding process based on the ceiling price or pricing framework, similarly to conventional energy sources to be regulated, with some negotiation on a tariff between developer and EVN. One of the reasons to make the draft more aligned with the current law of Vietnam, because now we have a new regulation of investment law and government decree 51 recently adopted, as well as the bidding law and government decree 25. So we need to consider certain element of the law to design the new framework for Vietnam. So far, the contents of the new draft is still in the draft form, not yet formally circulated from the government. But we would like to discuss some key point here based on our past discussion. So in terms of the bidding procedure, generally the auction mechanism procedure under the Decree 25 of the government guiding the bidding law will work in certain order. Then MYT need to issue certain pricing framework for use to run in the auction round. The role of people committee at the province will prepare and approve the list of solar projects open for tender, specifying the location, capacity, and grid interconnection plan, and estimate the total investment capital to be used for the solar project. The people committee of the province also need to issue certain investor selection criteria and plan on the auction. And as you know, in order to adhere the current Decree 25, then the investor selection process need to based on that, unless specified in the final draft of the promised decision. So investor, when have been selected, then it will be announced by the the authority. And one of the questions right now is whether the tariff of the PPA need to be determined through the auction mechanism or direct negotiation further with EVN. So it is a point where we need to see more consideration from the government. And a key principle here for approval of winning bid is it based on the condition from technical and commercial proposal. But technical proposal is very first proposal. We need to submit bid dossier. Capacity experience of the developer need to be provided to meet the requirement, and other technical to be spelled out in the RFP. And the proposed tariff, as I mentioned, need to be subject to certain pricing framework to be regulated from the MYD. I think one of the point I would like to emphasize here is this is not the only one model to be considered. Actually, as I said, based on the law and international best practice, there are a number of models we can consider from time to time. So when the market is progressing, additional models are being discussed. So one of the model right now is substation-based procurement, when based on the global experience, other than solar park, investor may need to find project location and join the bid for connection to certain interconnection point predetermined by the auctioneer. It can be depending on model, MYD or the people committee or EVN. So solar PV auction on solar farm can be considered when we add on battery energy storage, addition of new battery energy storage to the system of operating solar farm is one of the options have been discussed so far. The other option is to bidding together with new solar farm. So all the options are now still being studied further. High voltage direct current transmission line is another element to consider under the draft PDPA. So the government also consider that when designing the whole solar auction procurement program. Now, I think we can move on to another mechanism, direct power purchase agreement. In Vietnam, when we talk about DPPA or virtual corporate PPA structure for renewable, we call it the PPA or direct PPA or DPPA. But globally, as you know, we normally refer to corporate PPA, virtual or synthetic structure. So by DPPA, we are talking about that model, basically focusing on offsite solar farm over 30 megawatt project. And here the slide basically summarize how the draft DPPA regulation have been developed during the past 2 years. Most recently, on 8 April 2021, the MYT released official draft, second official draft circular on DPPA pilot program. So with the new government setting in, and continue with the direction of the former government successful renewable energy policy. Then more recently, following certain comment from stakeholders to the draft during the past 2 months, then we understand that MOIT and IRAP is further updating the draft during the course of this month for finalization. And in terms of the work plan, tentative plan, and schedule for the PPA pilot program, the key point here relevant to developer and consumer, I would like to emphasize here is we have a 45 working days from the date of MYT opening the DPPA pilot program electronic information portal for GenCo and generation company and consumer to jointly participate in the program by jointly submit registration application to the MYT portal. And the next one in terms of pilot implementation phase, then the key point I would like to highlight here is we have 270 working days from the date of the list of Genco or consumer select from by MOIT for participate in the program will be announced. Then the party need to complete and negotiate on the contract document for the PPA. As you know, we have a three key document here. First is the PPA between developer and EVN for wholesale markets price payment settlement. Another PPA is the contract for differences, the CFD between the consumer and developer. And third is the power supply agreement between a consumer and local power corporation. That is the key point to note here. During the pilot program, the MOIT have a plan to have a estimate of 1 gigawatt nationwide capacity. I understand that it not necessarily mean a cap, but it may be open for future because now the government also thinking about operational phase after 2023 or so when the retail market may be more progress or wholesale market more operational, then the capacity can be considered depending on the pilot program, the outcome. Next, in terms of condition and eligibility for company, from a developer perspective, the key point to note here is we have a minimum 30 megawatt capacity required for each solar farm consider. And for this threshold for solar farm, we understand that it should be AC capacity. So that is an important point to keep in mind. From a consumer perspective, the key point we need to consider here is consumer need to be industrial consumer. And another important threshold issue is for the first 3 years of participating in the DPPA pilot program, then the output to be purchased from developer within 1 year will be at least 80% of the total output consumed in that year as supplied by power corporation. So that is one of the elements to note. In terms of registration procedure, then we have a 45 days, as I mentioned earlier, to submit the application. And that is the point where developer and consumer should work together. Last, I would like to highlight some of the key items for documentation requirement for DPPA. First is the joint application form. It needs to be prepared in the form required in the MOIT circular. CFD term sheet is also required, and other form to be provided in the draft. This is quite standard document going forward. So that a key point I would like to highlight today. Thank you very much for everyone for your attention. If you have any question, we will be happy to discuss further during the panel discussion or Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thadhai Guin, for this insightful presentation. Now, moving ahead with our techno-commercial presentation by Mr. Lim Chuang Boon, who is the Head of Product and Marketing APAC, Trina Solar Asia Pacific. Welcome on the screen, Mr. Lim. Sir, I would request you to start with your presentation.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
I hope everyone can hear me and see my screen now.
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. So thank you again, Solar Quarter, for organizing the webinar today, and thanks to all the speakers and the participants in these very COVID times. So hope everyone can keep safe and continue working on this renewable energy projects. So I'm Lim from Trina Solar. I'm managing the product portfolio of Trina Solar in Asia Pacific. So let me start my presentation for the day. So just a very brief introduction about Trina Solar. We are founded in 1997 and we have over 20 years of experience in the manufacturing of solar panels and supply on a global basis. So a few key milestones here. Especially last year, we have relisted ourselves onto the Shanghai Stock Exchange Star Market, and we have also launched our 600 watt and beyond ultra high power modules for the industry. So, and also we have been ranked 5 times in a row the top most bankable module supplier from 2016 to 2020. So over the last 3 years, we have been rapidly expanding in Asia Pacific, and our cumulative shipment is about close to 9 gigawatt of module shipment over the last 3 years, and one of the top 3 module suppliers in the Asia Pacific region. So our headquarters is in Singapore for APAC. So in terms of technology-wise, Trina has been actively researching and having new innovation. So since last year, we have launched our 210 vertex module, and then we are also looking at the N-type iTopCon modules together with the advanced HJT technology. So the iTopCon and HJT is something that is under the evaluation and review. So it might be coming soon in the next couple of quarters. So just a recap on the history of module power trend. So as you can see, over the last 10 years, this is referring to mono silicon modules. So over the last 10 years, we have seen the power bin increase tremendously from a low of 290 watt in 2009 to now we are reaching over 600 to almost 700 watt in 2021. So this is a advancement in terms of the solar technology by using the different technologies, incorporating PERC, half cell, multi-bus bar, larger cell format, and also the N-type modules. So you can see that the trend overall is moving towards the higher and higher power bins, which is using the 210 cell size. So as a recap, we will see that in one of the biggest solar exhibition in China, 2021 June, SNEC. So we actually see more than half of the different manufacturers are displaying modules in the power bin range of above 600 to 700 watt. And then about 35% is using the smaller module, the smaller cell size of 182. So from China here, we are actively promoting on the 210 cell size. So we have already supplied to numerous projects all over the world. And you can see some of it is already commissioned and in operation. And we have a lot of other pipelines that's ongoing in all other parts of the world. So to date, I think there's more than 10 to 15 gigawatt of supply of the Trina Vertex module. So as an introduction of the Trina product roadmap, you can see since 2020 Q3, we have started off with our 500 watt module. And then next in November, we have launched our 550 watt. And then now we are looking at the 600 watt and the 660 watt, which will be available sometime second half of this year. So at the same time, we also have the smaller footprint modules, which is used for the residential and the small CNI rooftops. So mainly in February this year, we have launched the 400 watt module that is using also the 210 cell size. So you can see here, this is a comprehensive product model list of Trina modules. So on the top half of the table is the 166 cell size, which is mainly we target for resi market and some of the small CNI rooftops. And on the bottom half of the table is all our 210 cell size modules. So basically, this will cover the power bin from 400 watt all the way to 670 watt and targeted for all the different applications and segments. So in terms of technology-wise, we have integrated the 4 key technologies. So we have been using the largest available wafer size, which is 210. And then to match with this larger wafer size, we have also increased the number of bus bar. So effectively for 210, we are using 12 bus bar for the half cut and 10 bus bar for the 1/3 cut. Now on the top right is the non-destructive cutting. So this is also to match with the larger size wafer. So as we do the cutting of the cell to half cell or 1/3 cell, we use a low temperature laser so that we can get the very smooth edges, cell edge, and maintain the same loading capabilities as almost as close as to a non-cut full cell. Then on the bottom right is the high density interconnection technology. So essentially we minimize the cell gap between each cell to about 0.5 to 0.9 mm so that we are able to shave the few off the overall dimension of the module, and this will help to increase the module efficiency by about 0.2 to 0.3%. So allow me to go into a little bit more details on our 210 vertex module. This is available in both the bifacial double glass and the backsheet monofacial. So using the 550 watt as example, so you can see here, these are some of the technical details. So we are using the 210 cell, bifacial cell, and then the multi-bus bar, non-distributed cutting, high density interconnection. And this 550 watt is based on a 5x11 layout. So there's 110 cells on a half cut cell. And this is based on the design principle of a low voltage, high current design. So what is the benefit of the low voltage, high current design? When we put it into the system level, we can see that generally systems nowadays are designed based on the 1500 volt system. So we are able to increase the number of modules per string as compared to the others with this low VOC design. So you can see as a comparison, we are able to connect almost about 35% more power per string compared to the others. And this factor itself will have a significant impact on the cost of the BOS of the system. So this is an interesting table as we recap over the last 10 years how the string power has changed, and as the system voltage also increases and the number of number of modules per string has also been increasing. So all these will contribute to the reduction in the system cost and help developers and project owners to have a lower levelized cost of energy for their solar projects. So we have also done extensive study together with third-party DMV. So this is based on a one portrait tracker scenario where we compared across the different power bins in two different countries, in US and also in Spain. So we can see that the overall EB cost actually will decrease when we use a higher power bin modules. This essentially comes from less number of modules because per module power bin is higher. So there's less number of module used and less installation to perform. And the low voltage design uses less strings, so there's less DC cables and wiring work. And when you put it into a tracker, the total length of a tracker is also reduced. So we also get savings from there. So you can see from a summary table that we have here, overall the LCO is also reduced as compared to the other lower power bin modules. So besides one portrait tracker, we have also done the simulation for the other scenarios in different configuration. So we can see we have the two portrait tracker, two portrait fixed tilt, and the four landscape fixed tilt. So overall, we do see quite a conclusive analysis results showing that by using a higher power bin module, we're able to reduce the system costs. So next, we have also recently launched our Vertex Ultra High Power 670 watt module. So this is available in both monofacial backsheet and double glass bifacial. So this is based on a 66x2 132 cell layout. The dimension is about 2.3 by 1.3. So this is also based on the low voltage design concept. So we have a lot of, when we first launched this product, we have a lot of inquiries and questions from the different industry experts, from our customers. So we have done extensive testing to prove the reliability assurance of these large dimension modules. So recently we have published an article showing that how these large dimension modules has passed the different load tests and the non-uniform snow load test. So this is based on the optimized frame design, and so that we can maintain the same loading properties as compared to the traditional modules. So over here, we have the article that is talking about how Trina has passed the different tests, and we have also published the Vertex white paper, which has all the information and all the analysis of different inquiries and doubts that was raised previously by the industry, covering in terms of the reliability, the hotspot risks, the cable losses, and all this information. So if you are interested, please download our white paper, and we are also open to more discussion with the different interested parties. So as you can see here, we have also changed the packaging arrangement. On the left is the conventional two-stack packing. So on the right is our new vertical packing. So this is basically to match with the large size footprint modules. So this is how it will look like inside a 40-foot container. So we can see here, basically is able to actually pack more modules, or rather more power per container as compared to the others. So similarly, we also do the system level analysis for a 670 watt module versus a 540 watt module. So we can see that it still follows the same principle as before. By using the higher powering modules, we can get savings in the BOS, which also translate to savings in the LCOE. So for Trina Vertex series, this is based on a low voltage, high current design concept. So one important point that we are note is that how will these modules be compatible with the inverter suppliers in the market now? So I'm happy to say that for central inverter, there's no problem. At the same time, for string inverter, we have also worked with the top major inverter suppliers here. So they all have compatible models with the Trina high current modules. At the same time, because of the larger dimension, we have also worked with the top tracker suppliers to make sure that the tracker design is compatible with the Trina Vertex larger dimension. So these are also our tracker suppliers, which have also issued compatible approval with the Trina large footprint modules. So lastly, I would like to just share some project reference that we have done in terms of the rooftop using Vertex module, and also some utility projects that we have done in China using our Vertex module. So this is my last slide. Once again, this is the Trina Vertex family. So essentially, we cover the power bin from 400 watt all the way to 670 watt, and it's applicable for all the different application, for residential, commercial industry, all the way to utility, and also some other projects like floating projects, fishing, agriculture projects, and those ultra large scale power plants. Okay, thank you everyone for the time today. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Lim sir, for the wonderful presentation and for setting the tone for the session. Now we will move forward with our most awaited panel discussion. The topic of our discussion for today's session is scaling up growth opportunities, challenges, and market outlook. And in our elite panel, we have Mr. Frederick Burke, who is the principal Baker and McKenzie Vietnam. He is also the session chair for the session today. Mr. Teji Pilskov, who is the EVP Project Development and Project Finance, Scatec ASA. Mr. Milan Koev, who is the founder and CEO of Hexagon Peak. Mr. Tanhai Nguyen, who is the Special Counsel, Energy, Mining and Infrastructure, Baker McKenzie, Vietnam. Mr. Nguyen Huang Hai, who is the CFO of Helcom. Dr. Gayam, who is the President, Pacifico, and also Vice Chairman of Vietnam Clean Energy Association. So, I would like to hand over the session to Frederick, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Birianchi. I'm very happy to be here today and have such a great panel of speakers to discuss with. We only have until 4 o'clock. That's 45 minutes. So I will be brief. We won't do a whole bio on each of these guys, but I can tell you that for the audience that you've got people who really know what they're doing here, and we've got a good range of perspectives. So I think just by way of background, in case you didn't pick it up from the presentations, there's been a huge growth in solar energy in Vietnam in terms of installed capacity for solar energy. Looking back 5 years when there was virtually zero, we're talking 24% of installed capacity today. That is an explosion by anybody's estimate. But as Hai said, the PDP-8, the next power development plan, really doesn't put as much emphasis on solar. It seems to shift the emphasis a bit to wind, and we'll talk about why that might be. I think it may have something to do with intermittency issues and the grid management and that kind of thing. But the point is, even if it doesn't grow much more, solar energy is here to stay. It's a big part of the energy mix in Vietnam now, and will remain that way in the future. And we're talking about utility scale right down to household solar. My entry into this was when I built a house in Ho Chi Minh City on the river and had 80 square meters of rooftop. And we put panels on all of that and produced 34 or 32 kilowatts of energy a day, only half of which we use, the half of which we sell in a PPA to the city electricity company, and for a nice little feed-in tariff. And so it's been a fantastic experience with the installation and the maintenance. You hardly have any problems with the thing ever over 4 years, and it's silent and clean and much better than the old diesel generator that we all used to use. So solar energy is its own attractions in Vietnam, especially during a housing boom and a construction boom where all the industrial zones are gearing up and building their own energy and trying to have resiliency in case the grid goes down. So let's start with our first question, and maybe Terry is the guy to start with here of Scatec. Terry, what do you think is the force driving the utility sales sector of solar power in Vietnam today? What are the sort of the most macro drivers that we're seeing?
Thank you, Frederick. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel. Scatec is a pure play renewable player on a global basis in Southeast Asia. We have operations currently, in addition to in Vietnam, in Malaysia and in the Philippines. And so far in Vietnam, we have a 30 megawatt wind project operating, but we are developing projects across wind, solar, floating PV, and also offshore wind. Back to your question, Frederick. I think if you go all the way back, I think we are currently increasingly seeing the effects of climate change. And we also see that, I think there was a new UN report earlier this week that is clearly depicting that we are currently not doing enough to combat climate change. And Vietnam as a country is one of those countries that are especially exposed to climate change. I mean, with the Mekong Delta and everything, it is significantly impacted by the changes that we are currently seeing in the climate. So I think that's sort of from a macro perspective what's going to drive the growth of renewable energy in the country. I think it's going to drive renewable energy growth in the country beyond potentially what we currently see in the PDP-8 draft and what is currently being expected. We will see increased electrification across all sectors, especially obviously in transportation over time, but also across sectors. I think we will see increased retiring of thermal, even that's sort of a politically sensitive topic. LCOE of renewable will continue to come down. But we will also see new technologies like, for instance, BESS that will enable us to further increase the percentage of renewable energy on the grid. Even though, obviously, as you pointed to, some of the key challenges that we've currently seen are related to, let's call it, overinvestment of solar in certain regions that has caused grid issues. What is going from a local point of view being required to drive this going forward is obviously predictable regulations. It is even more important, I think, for international investors and attracting international investors and maybe domestic players to have those clear, predictable regulations. The grid needs to be strengthened, as you also indicated, and it needs to continue to incentivize investments also in BESS. And then going forward, I think what it's really going to drive it is further deregulation. And as an introduction here, we also had a presentation of what's going on the DPPA side, and I think that's something that can certainly drive it forward. But I mean, obviously, you also mentioned what we've been through. We've been through a boom-bust cycle on the solar side, and I think the sector is a bit getting its act together after that boom-bust cycle. And what is now going on is it's an uncertainty, at least from an international investment point of view, which is a bit challenging. There's no currently clear regulation on the solar side, on the wind side. We are wondering a bit what's going to happen on offshore wind development and also on floating. And I think it's important that now, as swiftly as possible, these regulations are coming into play and are creating more clarity. Because developing projects in Vietnam is expensive. You take on quite a lot of development cost early on, and then it's important that there is an as important and clear regulation as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Okay. What about cost? No, that was a great answer. It really covered the waterfront, except costs. I mean, one of the things that people used to say, oh, is, this environmentally clean, green energy is too expensive and blah, blah, blah. But we've seen the price of panels come down so much. And now that you've got production in country as well, you've got expertise in installation and maintenance. Seems like the whole cost structure has radically dropped in the days since First Solar first set up their plant here, for example. Well, what do you think about the cost element in this? Isn't that a necessary precondition? We take for granted that business people have to include the cost, and this is now becoming cheaper than coal if you factor in all the actual costs of coal.
Yeah, I think that already in very many places in the world, including in Vietnam, renewable energy is becoming the cheapest source of energy. I mean, as we all know, it has certain challenges in terms of intermittency that we need to manage. But it is the cheapest source of energy, and it is going to continue to come down. I mean, we also had a presentation from Trina just now, and the module that the panel manufacturers are continuing to improve efficiency and drive down cost of the panels, and I think that we see those those efficiency improvements across all technologies. So we will see that costs are coming down. And on the other side, I also think that the alternatives are going to become more expensive because there are going to be additional costs related to thermal energy generation. So I think that renewable energy by far is going to be the cheapest alternative going forward.
Yeah, that's right. We're looking at new carbon tax proposals from the EU, for example, on Vietnamese export of goods there that would raise the price if you don't convert to green energy. And certainly establishing a green supply chain has been front and center in the minds of many of our clients investing in Vietnam and the big brands, because the consumers insist that the products be produced with clean energy these days more and more.
Yeah. And I think that's also going to drive the DPPA. I mean, it's going to be a requirement for industrial players and the consumers that they can source green energy, because that's going to be required to be competitive in the future and also being a player on the international market. So this is going to be a key driver also going forward.
Okay, good.
I guess especially important for Vietnam, given that Vietnam is such an economy with significant export focus, right? So if you want to sort of be a player in the national market, you need to ensure that you can also provide services and goods based on green energy.
Absolutely. I mean, even in the domestic economy, we've heard of serious discussions about, in the government about the need to protect agriculture. It's still an agricultural country. It wants to food security. And of course, putting a lot of coal-fired power plants next to the rice fields is not the best thing for food security. So that's another element. There's a lot of things coming into play. But maybe we move on to the next question about policy incentives that are available now in Vietnam in terms of what are the things that you see as being, sort of a drivers for foreign interest in Vietnam that are incentives that are available now, and what interventions and additional incentives would be necessary to increase growth. And here I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Jennifer from Jennifer Oxlade from Pacifico Energy. Pacifico, I know you guys have looked at the market here and had a pretty good idea of what the economic and conditions are for investing. Where do you see them as being sufficient? Where do you see them as being insufficient? I note that Terry mentioned the issue of inconsistency or delays in the laws and regulations. This is a continuing problem in Vietnam. What do you see as the things that the incentives that are in place that are good, and what needs to be done in addition to that? Jennifer, is that okay for you to take that one? Well, that doesn't look like Jennifer. It's okay. Well, as long as you're from Pacifico, I'm going to speak. But is Jennifer here?
So actually, Jennifer couldn't join, so Dr. Huang has joined on her behalf.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, Juan, why don't you go ahead and do? Is that okay for you to take that question?
I think our new Jennifer is on mute, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep. Juan, you're on mute. Sorry. Hello. Wait. You're on mute.
I'm very sorry for that. Yeah, it's okay now.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, I am Dr. Jiang, the president of Pacifico Energy, and I am also the vice chairman of the Vietnam Clean Energy Association. So, about the solar development in Vietnam, we invest into one solar power plant, 40 megawatt peaks, and everything was going on well. We have the very good project, profitable, and it is running now under operation. We also have the plan of invest for the next pipeline. Actually, we already acquired the land near to our solar power plant, and we prepare all the documentation and so on. But I can share with you that at that moment, it's not that easy to invest to the solar power sector in Vietnam. I have to tell you that from Vietnam as one investor here, and we also have some discussion with the Ministry of Industry and Trade and with the EVN, Electricity of Vietnam. And we understand that Vietnam at the moment can consider that we have enough the solar energy capacity, which already now represent a quarter of the capacity for the whole generation of Vietnam, and the how to say the network, the grid is not be able to serve. I mean, there's own the generation from the renewable energy development, even for the wind solar in the future. There is also now a big concern about how to serve that generation after the deadline of the end of this October. So that's why you can see in the draft of the PDPA, we can feel that for the short term, well, from now until 2025, there is not much room for the development of the solar in Vietnam. Actually, they still give a little bit of room for the wind development because the wind is not much in Vietnam at the moment. We only have 600 megawatt wind power now on the operation. That's why, and for the wind, this working even day and night, not like the solar when we have to invest more for the storage system for the night time. That's why the how to say the strategy policy of EVN and of course MOIT is trying to manage the solar development. That's why we do not have a clear mechanism for the future development of the solar in Vietnam as we expected. We really need the. We understand that maybe no more the feed-in tariff mechanism, and we now expected the mechanism of auction and even with the direct PPA, as we mentioned before. So that has to wait for us to continue the solar in Vietnam, and is very much now depend on to the policy maker. Here is the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and they are now talking about the role of the EVN as well as the provinces where the solar power plant which require a lot of land in the province will need to face it, and they also have some priority for the pilot program, as you know, for floating solar system. Why floating? Because EVN have some hydro power plant which have the big reservoir, and to get that reservoir to make the solar floating is very much easier than now to acquire the big land for the solar farm as before. Uh, Solar rooftop, EVN also now really does not manage well because it's quite distributed and difficult for EVN to control, like National Load Dispatching Center can put the control of the solar farm, to control. That's why in general, I see that for the really development in solar now in Vietnam, we need to be very close to the market. We need to follow up closely the new policy, the new decision from the MOIT and from the Prime Minister for the next step, and it is not clear at the moment. It's not clear. So that's why the involvement of the legal organization here, like Dr. McKenzie, is good because you are following up the situation in the country, and you know the development of the legal document. Without that framework or policy or legal document, is a very big high risk to continue to invest into Vietnam for solar at the moment. In my opinion, we need to have a good, how to say, follow up of the policy and legal framework for the solar power plant in Vietnam before we really investing into the next step of the solar in Vietnam, especially this year and next year. I would think that we should be very careful on the development of that, on the investment.
Frederick, I think you're on mute.
Thank you for letting me know that. Okay, so you make a very good point that it's sort of nonsensical to talk about the policy incentives to encourage investment in solar when there's so many investors willing to do it anyway, regardless of the incentives. So they don't need to really break their backs to pay people to come in. And I think that goes to the next question, which is, we've seen already some curtailment and some, that wasn't expected, maybe drop in demand due to COVID or whatever. But the point is, there's a lot of projects that are pending COD, and there is a deadline coming up for COD. I think Hai can tell us what his sort of feeling is from the feedback you get from the government. Hai, would you like to? I mean, I'm talking about Nguyen Tan Hai. Yeah, Hai, would you like to say what's going to happen if these guys can't meet the COD deadline?
Yeah, basically, as Dr. Yang already mentioned, and I discussed in my presentation. So the study deadline when we transition from fixed regime to auction is something uncertain, and that's why without achieving the COD deadline, then the tariff will be remains undetermined. It's subject to either auction or revised tariff in the future. But the question now is more likely, as we said, two key mechanisms, PPA or auction. In terms of curtailment risk, one of the key incentive for the government to consider is to improve a bit on the risk allocation in the terms of the PPA model PPA, given the fact that when we move to solar auction mechanism, then the tariff will be going down. So additional tariff incentive for the private sector would be more bankable template of PPA. This should be worked together further going forward, including curtailment risk and termination risk are key risks from risk allocation standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a big incentive if they could sort that out. That's always been a big worry for investors, hasn't it? Maybe I could go to Milan and, because we're talking about this system of solar auction, reverse auctions, and we saw in India it drove prices down to 2 cents a kilowatt hour, which frightened a lot of people here. What do you take as a positive approach that Vietnam could take to the reverse auction system from outside of? What would be the best approach they could take here, knowing what you know from what Hai's just said about what they're looking at?
Sure. Thanks, Frederick. Thanks for Solar Quarter as well for inviting me. I guess very nice crowd is listening to this panel, which is a very clear indication that this has been done very professionally. I counted today. This is the 21st webinar or online conference that I'm talking to in the last 2 years regarding Vietnam. Really hope that there is going to be something new that we can come up here today, but less likely. Look, auctions is not very well appreciated by the investment crowd. And this is because, on the contrary to what was just said, investors are willing to deploy without much incentives. I do not necessarily see this. We'll be more than happy to get in touch with those type of investors. But the risks present in investing in solar, particularly, and those risks must be justified by returns. This is the very simple equation of thousands of years. And so the risks are remaining with auctioning or with feed-in tariff. We still have multiple challenges for investment. So I wouldn't I wouldn't say auctioning will open up significant deployment of investment in solar. Definitely not in the scale of what the feed-in tariff has enabled, and definitely not what the private PPAs for rooftops can offer. So essentially, what we see is that, and to small comment to Mr. Jiang, comparing solar and wind. If we have two projects in Ningtuan, one is wind and one is solar, the LCOE of solar will be lower than this of wind. So essentially, solar is becoming cheaper than wind. Of course, we have to compare geographically where they are, but essentially, solar is becoming cheaper. And in order for the government to take a decision which way to go, whether it's going to be solar or wind, even though solar has been deployed significantly faster than wind, they need to look at those dynamics. They need to see the LCOE, and they need to see what is the threshold of investors willing to deploy money at. Is it 10% IRR? Is it 15% IRR? What is basically the minimum barrier which they have to enable in order for capital to flow in? And if those reverse auctions are taking place, I would not estimate the same interests from investors. A lot of local players will continue to dominate, but international investors less likely.
Okay, that's a very good point and a good opportunity to get Mr. Hai, Wen Huang Huai from Howcom. If Hai, what would you think from a local expert's point of view? The government is looking at. They
Sorry to
Hai,
interrupt you, but I would request everyone to turn on their cameras so that we can have a better interaction. Thank you
That's
so
good.
much.
Okay, there's Hai. I'm glad he's there. I'm talking to him. Okay, so Hai. So from your perspective as a local expert on the availability of finance and pricing and all these elements that go into making an investment worthwhile or not that Milan was just talking about, do you see it as being attractive? I mean, the regional comparables. Is Vietnam got an environment in place that will be sufficient to continue to attract renewable investment, much less solar itself?
Yes. So we are happy to see that the solar develop very fast in Vietnam in the last years, and as of course the government see the distinguished advantage of solars and renewable energies in general through the long-term development of Vietnam. However, from local developers' perspective, we still see certain difficulties in developing solars. First, we know now the new policies for solar is not clear, decided yet. So we are still waiting for the auctions and any new policies we are expecting, but everything is not clear up to now, and it means that so it affect certainly affected our plan to develop in the future. Why we see that in the recent years the solar development cost is falling down, so it's a good signal. But still, we see that most of the projects in Vietnam, they have certain difficulties in approaching the low interest rate financing. I mean, because of the very short time of development to meet the COD time. So most many developers have to go back to local banks because of course it's for local banks it's easier to talk, easier to set up the relationships and we understand each other maybe better because we often have a long-term relationship with local banks. But on the other hand, with local bank, of course, we all know that the bank rate in Vietnam now is very high compared to other countries. For example, normally the bank rate is about 10-12%, and it is a burden, a financial burden for any projects. And even for refinancing option after COD time, and when we try to get the refinancing from foreign banks or other source of financing, we still see difficulties because of course we face the penalty fee from banks that they charge. Sometimes it's very high, and the procedure is not easy, so it makes it's rather difficulty for refinancing. Why I see that in Vietnam, most developers, local developers, are expecting that in the long run we can refinancing the project, but in fact it is not an easy case. Also for solar projects, of course the cost is not only in the bank rates, but also we have O&M costs and even because it is the project timeline is it's 20 years. So we may not see what happened in future. For example, any breakdown in the equipments or warranty, or as you see, for example, like in O&M now for COVID time, for example, like it's not easy for foreign experts to come to Vietnam, for example. So even when the project has some difficulties in inverters or in other systems, so we have a lot of difficulty in connecting and understanding, and of course we don't have the experts local. Uh, so totally, it can affect the revenue and to or may incur higher costs for the project. So and also that for solar, it's not easy like always like on the financial model we expect that is sometimes because that because it's the solar it's from the nature, right? So it's may the turnover and the production may differ from year to year, and it may also affect the financial outcomes of the projects in Vietnam.
Okay, thanks. There's a lot in there too. That was really helpful. I think you mentioned the high interest rates in local banks and local currency. There's issues there. There's also using the PPA for security or land use rights agreement for security with foreign banks. Very difficult to convince them given the curtailment risk in the standard PPA and that kind of thing. So all those points are very well taken. In terms of refinancing, that is the strategy we saw a lot of original developers come in with. They would get the project up and running, and then they'd flip it or take on new investors. So we don't see refinancing as such, but I do think we're seeing a lot of M&A. Maybe people finding that there was a lot of small projects under the 30 megawatt sort of level because that was the way you could avoid going to central government for approval. And now people are consolidating those projects under an umbrella. And that may make more sense. But it's all changing, as you say. I think what this issue you mentioned about the foreign experts not being able to get in right now, this is an acute problem, and I really do hope that the government is able to get it over. It's affecting even our own operations as lawyers, and financiers can't get here either to make the deals, get the deals done. Kick the tires on the project in M&A when you need a new partner to come and get the thing on its feet. So this is that's a big issue, and hopefully with the virus getting under control with the big vaccination campaign that's going on now, you get to herd immunity, then it'll be easier for these experts to come in. But for the time being, and for at least the next 4 to 6 months, it looks like it's going to be quite a challenge on that particular point too. Okay, so I should move on and ask another question about the tariffs. And we've talked about predictability as being so important. There is the concept in the Vietnamese energy basic policy, the sort of reform plan, that the wholesale price was supposed to become a market-oriented price over time, and that EVN was going to subject itself to competition and this kind of thing. Hai, maybe you could, Nguyen Hai from Baker, maybe you could say where we are on that. Is that really going to happen? To what extent can we expect it to happen? And how should investors sort of prepare for the possibility of a move to market? Move to market might be good for them because the conventional wisdom was it would drive up the power price because it would no longer be subsidized or used as a subsidy by the government. So, Hai, what do you think about that possibility?
Yeah, thanks, Fred. So Vietnam is now in the transition phase from wholesale market, now completing wholesale market operation. And in the plan, Vietnam will further reform the electricity market to retail market after 2023. So a lot of work needs to be done along the line. But as always, developer have option to join the market. Right now, in order to join a competitive market, most of the participant is conventional IPP. In the future, when it is subject to more competitive mechanism, then developer have an option to join. And the question is how the PPA will be revised to make it more bankable from project finance perspective and international lender perspective. That is one of the key areas need to be considered from the government. And but I think in terms of the fluctuation of the tariff, obviously the spot market price will be subject to the operation of the market, so we cannot avoid that. I think in the draft PDPAs there's some provision already indicate that more IPP projects will need to be prepared to join in a long term for the wholesale market and retail market. And actually, we're trying to encourage the government to expedite the wholesale market operation and move to a resale market, because it linked to DPPA pilot program where we have a CFD settlement of the price. All of that need to align with the wholesale market pricing settlement. So I think it is a trend in Vietnam. So we can prepare for that.
Good. That was helpful. Hi, thanks. Maybe we could go back to Terry. We haven't heard from you for a few minutes. I'd like to give you a chance to talk about the potential, this issue of localization of manufacturing of the hardware and some of the software for the industry. Is that a strategic advantage for Vietnam? Is it happening? Like I said earlier, we've seen First Solar and some others really ramp up a substantial manufacturing operations here. But there's also, the inverters, the cables, the installation maintenance, O&M, EPC, a lot of things that around this economy that could be done in Vietnam that Vietnam seems to be trying to support. How do you see that as fitting into the whole equation here in terms of the energy mix? Is it going to, obviously it would help, it would seem to help Vietnam to get more solar power if they have these export-oriented industries in their doorstep, in their house, that are already leveraging off global sales to be able to produce also for the local market.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, manufacturing is not necessarily my expertise, even though I've sort of been also sort of working in that sector some time ago when I was with RSP. But so I would basically separate it. I don't necessarily think the fact of Vietnam developing their own manufacturing bases locally is going to sort of significantly change the possibilities of driving the growth of renewable generation in Vietnam. I don't know if Vietnam as such is going to sort of significantly shift the cost roadmap of the components industry on a global basis, so that will sort of significantly shift the situation. Obviously, it might be an opportunity for Vietnam to establish manufacturing activities in this sector, especially sort of with everything is going on a global basis on sort of the trade conflicts between regions and countries. So I mean, there might be sort of a place for Vietnam in that perspective, which could be very interesting to take advantage of. But there is going to significantly shift sort of the deployment of renewable in Vietnam in itself. I don't know if I believe that's going to be the case.
Yeah, okay, it's sort of icing on the cake, actually. But I do think that First Solar manufacturing here has been a huge psychological boost to the investment policymakers in Vietnam. The fact that plant, it was struggled for years with a Chinese dumping case and all that was going on. They were ready to sell it, and now it is just humming, doing really well, exporting most according to the original plan, but supplying the local market. So and there's competitors too coming in, which is always a healthy thing for keeping the cost down and attracting more investment. I think if you have a limited time, I would like to try and get just one closing remark from each of you, if you don't mind, and very briefly sort of summarizing your sort of key takeaways, or things you'd like the audience to have as their takeaways. Maybe we could start with Terry, because you've got the mic right now. So why don't we start with a very brief takeaway for the audience, and then we can move on to Milan and Dr. Zhang, and then Huang Hai.
Then I like to sort of share some reflections again from sort of the being an international investor into Vietnam. And I think sort of what's important for us is that we see that sort of risk and return goes together, and that means that it needs to be it needs to be sort of a combination of development environment and regulations that makes it interesting for us as an investor to take the risk of developing projects. So either you can sort of have projects where there's a huge risk, whether on the regulatory side, whether or not you're going to be whether or not you're going to be able to implement the projects, but then project development expenses and exposure needs to be limited. Otherwise, you can think that development expenditures can be significant, but then you need to sort of have a fairly clear and predictable regulation, and you need to know that sort of if you succeed with development, you are going to be able to find a way to implement your project. Currently in Vietnam, development exposure is significant if you want to develop wind or solar projects, and then it is fundamental for us as an investor, as an international investor, that we see sort of a clear and predictable path to implementing the projects that we are developing. Obviously, recognizing that we're willing to take risk, we understand that the return level might vary, but it needs to be sort of a clear path to implementing those projects. So I think those two things needs to go together, and that's crucial for us as an international investor.
Sure. Yeah, I think change of law you mentioned earlier as being one of the many risks you have to take into account. There's a couple of laws that will affect this industry. For example, the environmental law is going to be completely revamped, new decrees coming out to implement that. And one of the questions of many that come up for that will be who's responsible for recycling all the panels at the end of the 20-year term. So that's already being debated and discussed. People are considering what's going to happen 20 years from now with all these panels that are going up. Okay, let's go maybe to Milan next. Just your takeaway remarks for the audience, please. We really got to cut it short though, because we've got only a limited couple of minutes.
I think DPPA will be key. It's going to be a significant milestone, not only for the solar industry, but for the manufacturing industry overall in Vietnam. Just to give you an example, in 2018, the number of multinational companies manufacturing in Vietnam, which are part of RE100, was 35. Today, in 2021, we have about 60. Clear indication that more and more multinational companies are coming to Vietnam, and they have commitments to reduce their carbon footprint. So I think DPPA will be really key. That will open up a wholesale market as well, and many other benefits.
Good. Okay, that's good. Dr. Zhang, what concluding remarks, takeaways for the audience?
Yes, I would like to share with you some insight. Actually, yesterday I had with the one of the leader of EVN when they have a meeting about the renewable energy development. So this moment for us to talk about the solar energy is not really favorable, because you know, the COVID-19 in Vietnam is very strong now, and all the production is actually stopping. So the demand of the energy supply now is low, and the supply is high, even from the hydropower plant or even for the coal-fired. So the hydropower plant invested by EVN even now have more energy to supply to the market. That's why talking about the renewable energy at this moment for the short term is not really encourageable by the electricity of Vietnam as well as the government. But for the future, as we know, at the end of this year, everything will hopefully will become back and even develop it. You know that Vietnam is still in need of energy for development, and the solar energy have a good advantage that it is not a big, not really big investment, but we can do it very fast. Even in some months, we can do a solar farm, and this is the help to supply the energy electricity for the country. The other like the LNG or even for the wind cannot meet that demand if we don't have the short time and effective supply from solar. And even EVN have to prepare to buy the diesel to burn the power plant with the very high cost. That's why for the long term, and solar still have a very good potential to develop in Vietnam, and we need to prepare and we need to follow up with the decision and so on. Unfortunately, for the Vietnam country now, a long-term policy seems not how to say feasible. It's difficult to have that, especially with the new government, with the COVID-19 and so on. But for the long term, we still believe that we can develop the solar business in Vietnam, because the country in the long term still need a lot of energy, and the solar is the actually the best help with the short time and reasonable investment, not like the other like the LNG or even for the wind and so on. So I wish, yeah, I wish all of you have a good investment to Vietnam. Yeah.
Ah, very good. Thank you. That's a nice near closing note. I just want to give a quick chance to Huang Hai. We'll skip Hai, the other Hai, because he's already given a presentation. But Huang Hai, could you just close us off, please, here with a final reflection on renewable energy in the solar sector and the utility scale for Vietnam? Are you on mute? Yeah, you're on mute. Hi, so just there you go. Gotcha. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. So as Dr. Zhang mentioned, now solar develop very fast in Vietnam for the last years, and in the coming years, so maybe the room for solar is maybe more limited compared to others sources of energies. But we still see that problems could be solved. For example, like the issues of like connecting to the system or other issues, because anyhow we see that still solar is still quite cheap and source of energies compared to other sources, and it's still environmentally friendly like compared to, for example, like traditional power plants, or even like for other sources of energies, even like the wind farm. You still wind farm also have a certain disadvantages or obstacle. For example, like the cost of or the capex, the total capex of wind farm is still very high, and it's made an obstacle for the government to issue any good fit or any policies to support the wind farm, for example. We think that we should still uh, we expect still some balance from the government policies, and we still see that the solar has certain features, and as you mentioned, like for example, like when the Vietnamese companies can join in the value chain system, and so it make the cost is even more and more competitive. And other issues can be solved by cooperation between the government and developers and other stakeholders. So that we can see more developments of solars in the future. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, good. It makes sense. I think one of the themes that's come out is that, utility scale solar, just because of the intermittency issues and everything else, is going to be less incentivized in the coming years. But nevertheless, I think if you look at rooftop solar, household rooftop, these are very have natural market dynamics that are driving the resiliency in the face of these supply chain disruptions, the costs going down, control, green supply chain. In the household solar area, we see, went from in 2016 5 pilot projects in Ho Chi Minh City to tens of thousands of projects across the country today in terms of household solar. I think that's a natural, taking advantage of new technology that's just going to be, if anybody's got enough money to build a house, they have enough money to put solar panels on the top of it. So that's gonna happen. Question is about this utility scale model and how that can be effectively leveraged into the grid. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for your great contributions, expertise, and I wish we had about 5 hours instead of a quick 50 minutes to talk about all these weighty issues. But thanks very much. I'll turn it back over to our hosts, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.
Sir, I would just like you to take the Q&As.
Oh, sure. How much time will we have for that?
There are just 3 to 4 questions. So if you can take it.
Okay, I'm looking for the questions.
Do you want me to read it out for you?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Thanks.
Yes. So the first question is, what about grid stability due to intermittency? Has there been a feasibility study done, or are you planning to grow the grid? Also, the question is visible on the screen for your reference.
Yeah, I think it's the big question, and it seems to me to be an opportunity for foreign investment to come in here with some technology and some equipment to help manage the grid better. But would anybody in the among the panel members like to take a shot at that? Maybe Terry, I think you've looked at this issue probably pretty closely. Would you like to jump on that?
Okay, so I show the second question. This is for Mr. Lim.
We reached to 800 megawatt. That's fun for high, or maybe for Dr. Zhang. Dr. Zhang, would you like to take that one?
Hi, sir. Yeah, I'm Lim here. So maybe let me try on this one. No, we think that it will still depends. So the 600 watt and the 700 watt has just been launched in the market. So we are still trying to understand how the market dynamics and how is all the different development reacting to these high power modules, and what are some of the potential improvement that we can continue to do on this large dimension module. So definitely, as the technology improve, we think that the higher and higher power wind modules will become available in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mr. Lim. Okay, back to the last question, though, grid stability and how to manage that. Terry, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I think I mean, from our perspective, what's important is that when you go in and you develop projects, you make sure that you understand the grid situation where you are developing the projects, and use on a micro and macro level good local expertise to analyze the grid and the grid situation. Take into account, and they will take into account further future grid developments, and to do that, you will be able to understand to what extent you are developing project in an area where there will be good availability of dispatching your energy. So I think that's sort of the key thing from my point of view.
Okay, good. If anybody else has an additional point they'd like to make, do jump in. Just shout, and I will get you on the screen. But otherwise, there's a third question. What about interaction with other countries, especially legal? And that's a question near and dear to Tan Hai and my hearts, is trying to bridge that gap between the Vietnamese legal system and foreign legal system, especially in the legal systems of the creditors who demand usually that their own law govern the credit agreements. Hai, how would you like to say that? How does Vietnam look at foreign law and how to integrate it with Vietnamese law? Is it really so different under Vietnamese law?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I would emphasize that the risk allocation on the PPA and contractual framework is something Vietnam can improve further. I recently conduct a comparison with our other colleague in the region, Asia Pacific, in terms of risk allocation of a number of renewable PPA. And just for example, Indonesia and Vietnam PPA, when we're talking about risk allocation, then certain risks Vietnam can learn more to make it more detailed in the PPA, similar to curtailment and termination payment risk allocation. As you can see in the renewable PPA for Indonesia, PLN, when they run the tender, they have some option for negotiate on the take or pay arrangement and certain payment component to make it more clearly and to make it more bankable from a lender perspective. That is something Vietnam can continue to improve.
Okay, that would be great if they did. Okay, well, thanks again to everybody. I think we're well over time now, and you probably want to get to the cocktail networking, such as it is online. And thank you very much for our hosts and all the great speakers. Look forward to seeing you all in person here in Vietnam someday. Let's turn on those emoticons and let them rip now. Say goodbye.
So thank you so much to all our esteemed panelists for such an insightful session, sparing your precious time and extending your support for this event. Frederick sir, thank you for moderating the session. So now we will have a 15 minutes break. You all can interact and network in the lounge. We will start with another session in next 15 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thế là bắt đầu vào cái session của nó.
Welcome back to all the attendees. Thank you once again for joining us. So let's begin with our techno-commercial presentation by Mr. Pratyush Agarwal, who is the Business Development Manager of Pitson Energy. Welcome on the screen, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir. You can present your screen.
Just a second.
Sure. I would request the other speakers to mute themselves while Pratyush sir is presenting. Sir, do you need any assistance in sharing your screen?
Is it? Can you see it? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priyanshi, for giving this opportunity. It is an honor standing and sitting in front of all the top solar leaders of the world. Further, on behalf of Pixon team, I would like to greet each and everyone in the panel by saying Namaste. Now moving on to the presentation part, Pixon Green Energy has come into being in 2019 and established a 400 megawatt panel manufacturing unit along with a 800 megawatt EVA backsheet manufacturing unit in Rajkot, Gujarat. Pixar is a venture of Marwadi Group of companies. Marwadi Group of companies is into the market since last 27 years with the name MSFL, that is Marwadi Stock Finance Limited. We are in the top 10 performers in the Bombay Stock Exchange since last 17 years. Other than this, our company Pixon, we provide these different services to our clients. First is we provide solar modules, EVA films, EPC and O&M services. We also develop utility scale projects, and last but not the least, we also develop rooftop projects. Now moving on to the next slide, our vision, mission, and values. Basically, Pixon, we majorly focuses on two important aspects. First is quality, but not the quantity. And second, I would like to say our core values as well as the USPs that we follow is the product that we make, the technology that we use, and the services that we deliver. So other than this, we follow a consistency, accountability, and transparency also. Now moving on to the industrial infrastructure that we have, because for any manufacturing company, industrial infrastructure is very, very much important. And for that, our complete facility, it is spread over an area of 65,000 square meter of land with a spacious warehousing to stack 20 plus megawatt of finished products and raw material. Other than this, we have in-house raw material production for quality control and in-house skilled design and development team. So from here, you can see the quality, the technology, the infrastructure that we have. Ultimately, we are here to provide and build the best quality and supreme quality panels and to supply the same in the market and to provide it the best services to our clients. Now moving on to the next slide, the product range. At present, we are manufacturing two different type of products. First is solar modules and second is EVA films. In solar modules, we are manufacturing two different type of modules, that is monocrystalline panels, or you can say monoperc, and second is polycrystalline panel, non-DCR and DCR both. Other than this, we are also coming up with another 600 megawatt panel manufacturing line in which we would be manufacturing panels ranging from 450 watt peak to 600 watt peak, and those panels will be specifically for manufacturing bifacial panels, BIPV panels, and half cell panels. Now second product is EVA film, in which we are manufacturing fast cure and ultra fast cure EVA films. Now moving to the technology part. Technology is one of the most important aspect for any product which we produce. So here the technology that we are using, it has been imported from Europe, and we have a state-of-the-art turnkey manufacturing facility of 400 megawatt, as I have already told you. And this particular technology, it is driven by robotic automation, computation, and artificial intelligence, which ultimately makes the human interference very minimal. So this leads to very zero or this leads to negligible basically this leads to negligible errors when we produce a particular product, and the final product, the errors in that is almost negligible. Now moving on to the next slide, module ranges. Likewise, I already told you earlier our module range. So here in monocrystalline PV modules, our range starts from 365 watt peak and ends at 410 watt peak. Other than this, we are manufacturing panels with 72 cells as well as 144 cells. In polycrystalline also, our range starts from 315 watt peak and ends at 350 watt peak. Here also we are manufacturing panels with 72 cells as well as 144 cells, both. But the capacity is not just defined over here. We are also coming up with another line, like I said, already told you. In that, we will be manufacturing panels ranging from 450 to 600 watt peak. These are the ranges that we are manufacturing right now, and we would be manufacturing in future. That's with 72 cells, with 144 cells as well. Now moving on to the next slide, what are the key features for any product? If you want to purchase a product, each and every person looks for the key features. What additional features a particular panel is providing you. Here the panels that we are manufacturing, these are PID free. I hope each and every person over here, they must be aware that every panel has a particular degradation rate, and the efficiency of the panels degrade by a particular percentage till 25 years, from first year to till 25 years. But other than this, due to presence of PID, there's an additional degradation of around 5% in total. So here likewise we are providing PID free panels, so ultimately that additional degradation would not be there, and we would be able to provide higher efficiency panels to you. So also likewise, due to higher output of module power, the overall EPC cost of any company would come quite less. So these are the basic key features of our panels, through which we can easily grab the market, and you can easily pitch in your EPC projects as well, and get the best quotes from our side. Now moving on to the next slide, EVA films. Likewise, I already told you we are already manufacturing two different types of EVA, and the technology that we are using is European technology only, and EVA films also, they are PID free. So ultimately, the efficiency, it would help in increasing the efficiency of the panels. We are producing ultra fast cure and fast cure EVA films, as I already told you. And the key features of our EVA films are they have highlight transmission, they have durable bonding strength with both glass and backsheet, they are PID free films, they have excellent UV and damp heat stability, and they have very low shrinkage rate. So ultimately, we majorly focuses on quality only, and likewise we have our own EVA backsheet manufacturing unit. So we majorly focuses on providing the best services and best quality to the customers by reducing the errors and by improving the technology. Now the most important part comes is quality control. So we have our in-house quality control lab for products, doing the quality check and to provide the best panels and product that should be error free. We conduct three different type of tests in our lab. First is peer test, that is done for testing the cracks. The second is lamination test, in which ultimately the EVA backsheet has been laminated over the panels and the frame. So if proper lamination is not done, then air bubbles would come and it would ultimately affect the efficiency of the panels. So lamination testing is there. Then last but not the least, we also conduct simulation test, in which the panels are kept under natural conditions, natural radiation conditions, and through which we can understand and we can get the exact report of the efficiency as well as the generation that a panel will bring or will create at the time of installation at any site. So also other than this, other than the test that we conduct on our panels, we have been tested, approved and carried by all the major players of the world, like it is IEC, BIS, TUV, and ALMM. So from here we can see we have all the certifications in place, and we are able to provide the best quality product in the market, and we have been tested and approved by all the major agencies of the world. Also, likewise, I earlier told you, we are also into EPC solutions. So we have our in-house highly skilled and experienced EPC team, which provide both rooftop as well as ground mount solutions. We offer solutions to residential, institutional, as well as commercial and industrial clients. And we provide complete 360-degree solutions and also turnkey EPC solutions. In turnkey EPC solutions, we basically start from acquisition of the land and ends at construction commissioning. So we have our in-house team who takes care of each and every phase of a particular project, starting from land acquisition till construction commissioning of a particular plant. Other than this, we provide end-to-end solution to the client in three different models. First is EMI model, second is RESCO model, and third is CapEx model. So in these three models, we basically provide solutions to our customers. So ultimately, we are the complete package for a particular company, in which we not only provide the panels, the high, supreme and finest range of our panels, but also we provide the best EPC solution in three different models. Likewise, if a particular person or if a particular client, if they are not ready to go in CapEx mode, then we can pitch them for EMI. And same, if they are not ready for EMI, we can pitch them for RESCO. So we are a complete package for the company, not only in which we provide our solar panels, but also the EPC solutions. Now moving on to the leaders of a company, the major leaders of a company, because each and every company depends on the leaders who basically guide their company, guide their employees, and work and carry out the work in an efficient manner. So for each and every department, we have different leaders with us. For operations and projects, we have our director, Mr. Sumit Mehta. For production and procurement, we have our director, Mr. Punit Mehta. And for marketing and branding, we have our director, Miss Juhi Marwadi. And the most important part of a company, he is our technical advisor, Dr. Vinod Kaul, who is having a rich experience of 42 plus years in solar industry. The first cell which was manufactured in India, it was manufactured under the guidance and supervision of Dr. Vinod Kaul. So we have such a rich, experienced person, and scientists and technically mentors with us, who guide us, who provide us, who help us in providing the best quality services as well as the quality product to the client. Now moving on to our promoters, likewise I told you, our promoters are MSFL, Marwadi Stock Finance Limited. So here are promoters from the Marwadi group. You can see Mr. Rajnikant Mehta is there, Ketan Marwadi ji is there, Day1 Marwadi is there, Sandeep Marwadi and Jeet Marwadi ji is also there. The most important point comes here: why to choose Pixon? Because everyone thinks why we should go for your panel, why we should choose you. So likewise, I already told you in the beginning only, we only and only focus on quality, but not the quantity. Our core values and USP are: we focus on what we produce, what technology we use, and what service and quality we deliver. So ultimately, likewise, we are having our own in-house manufacturing facility. We have our R&D team who looks after, who do the modifications, who go according to market requirement. So we have our own manufacturing unit. We have our own R&D team. We have we are very financially sound organization. We have good financial background. Other than this, we provide end-to-end solutions to our clients in EPC. We provide RESCO scheme, EMI scheme, as well as CapEx scheme. So overall, for each and every person, we are a complete package for them. And it would be our honor to associate with companies like you and other companies as well, and provide our best services at all times. So here at Pixon, if you join with us, then definitely I would say, we Pixon, we are redefining the solar, and we will redefine your life as well. So thank you so much. I am Pratyush Agrawal signing off from now, and I would hand it over to Ms. Priyanshi to please take the things forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pratyush sir, for your valuable insights. It was a really a knowledgeable presentation.
Thank you, Priyanshi.
Of PV Diagnostics. Welcome on screen, Ayush sir.
Yep. Hi. Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon to all. I'm Ayush Mahajan, and I am one of the founders of PV Diagnostics. I'll just give a brief introduction about PV Diagnostics to everyone, and just wanted to take this opportunity to share about what we have been doing and the work that has happened till now. I'm just sharing the screen. Yeah.
Sure.
Is the screen visible now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So hello again, everyone. I'll just give a brief introduction of PV Diagnostics. We are a solar technology consultancy firm based out of India, and we work from inception to the commissioning stage of the plant. And our primary goal as a company is to work on improving solar power plant performance. So we have worked on more than 6 gigawatt of assets across the country, and to name a few clients that whom we have worked with, we have worked with almost all the leading developers in India and investors. So in India, you may have heard of Renew Power and Adani. We work with all of them. Along with that, we also work with a few European investors like KKR, Brookfield, etc. Our A quick introduction to our team. We are a team of industry veterans and graduates from one of the leading engineering institutes from IIT Bombay, which makes our approach very methodical and being at the ground level. So the four of us founded the company. Prakash, who is also here, Atul, Atul Jain, Pranav Maheshwari, and myself, four of us started the company in 2017, coming with a rich background in solar. And we have a lot of international advisors like Eric Daniels, who was CTO of BP Solar, Mr. Vinay Kumar, who was CEO of Brookfield Renewables, and Mr. Riyad Fazani, who was CEO of BP Chemicals and CEO of BP Solar. That experience of everyone helps us in developing a great expertise, and these are few of our core expertise. On We have expertise on module technology, on semiconductor technology, on design engineering. So from all the aspects of a solar power plants, we can provide any kind of consultancy. So we have worked on automation of solar power plants, automation of multiple processes, performance assessment and improvement. Technical due diligence is a very active practice of ours. uh, Moving ahead, we have four key service heads: on-site diagnostics, technical due diligence, quality inspection and monitoring services, and project consulting services. In on-site diagnostics, we cover complete end-to-end diagnostics of the plant. We work in all the aspects from module to inverter to structural related, any kind of thing that can be a problem in a plant. We identify that and we solve it. So we have diagnostic study where we conduct on-site studies. We do on-site testing using our tools, using yield image testing, IV curve testing. Using SCADA data, we do advanced analytics to identify what are the issues in a plant and then find proper solutions. We have all kind of component testing, complete end-to-end component testing of solar power plant. We do remote diagnostics. Sometimes people want to work with us on a remote basis. So for example, before visiting the plant, they only want to engage on remote diagnostics, where we look at their data and deduce what could be the issues. Then there are warranty claims. We work with developers and plant owners on identifying issues in plant or in solar panels specifically, and then helping them in getting warranty and insurance claims both. So we have been successful in getting warranty and insurance claims in past. Then there is technical due diligence. This is one of our other very active practices. We engage with multiple investors, Indian and foreign investors, on on buying and selling of assets or during mergers and acquisition. So we would do complete end-to-end technical due diligence of solar power plants, including on-site assessment, review of documentation, historical data analysis, and most importantly, energy yield assessment. The approach that we have followed in the whole process is that to identify issues and not just stay at the issues, but come up with solutions as well. Because a lot of times just finding issues is not enough. having solution is more important. And once we find a solution, we also come up with a payback period and how it would impact the generation, again with the payback period, so that they can have a complete techno commercial understanding of the asset, and then basis that they take our inputs in their financial models, and then we also advise during interactions with the seller and the buyer during negotiations. So for this, we have worked with investors like KKR, or Brookfield, or CDC, which is a UK based fund. Moving ahead to our next service, which is quality inspection and monitoring services. We are also working on these are the services which we provide during asset installation. So factory auditing related work or inline inspection during manufacturing, pre-dispatch inspection. All of these are more of module manufacturing related activities. And then there is inspection during installation as well. We have found we have very, very interesting case studies on what kind of issues that can happen in a plant during asset construction itself, and that is what we try to help the developer in minimizing those issues, because otherwise these issues come up later in the life of a plant. Moving on, we also work on other kind of consulting services, for example, uh, doing pre-feasibility studies of only solar assets or solar plus wind uh, plus energy storage that is becoming more prevalent now, working on round the clock tenders, because if renewable energy has to become sustainable, has to become proper, it has to provide electricity round the clock. So we work on those kind of tenders as well and trying to come up with solutions for our clients. We also work on project management consultancy and design engineering related activities with our clients. One of the other key things that we have developed is a diagnostics dashboard, which is essentially a one place solution for diagnostics of solar power plants. This can very easily be integrated with any kind of CMS or a monitoring platform. This platform brings all kind of diagnostics related activities to your plant. Otherwise, generally we have only monitoring data or data up to inverter level or maximum up to string level, but this helps you in getting up to a module level and getting a more detailed understanding of the plant. So there can be multiple plant integration that can happen here. This is a integration of on-site data collection along with our proprietary algorithms and analytics that we do on that data to give the developer or the owner a more detailed understanding. And our approach is we start at plant level and then we dig down and we go to inverter level, to string level, to module level, and then identify issues of soiling, of degradation, of hotspots, or at efficiency level, like for example inverter efficiency measurement using tools. So it's a very, very detailed view of a plant from a diagnostics perspective. So this particular view that we see here is more of a plant level analysis. This is further, for example, if there are multiple module makes which are there, module suppliers if there are at the plant, we can see what is the distribution between them of degradation. And then if you want to see which module is degraded by how much, you can click and you can further go in detail of what kind of, what is the degradation and what is the location of the panel. What I'm happy to share is that we are also coming in Vietnam now, and what we have seen over the years is that there is a, so in Vietnam there has been a very huge explosion of solar assets that have been there. In India also such a thing happened, and what we feel important is that now it is very important to get into that diagnostics mindset from the start days itself. In India, we did face certain issues from a performance perspective with few of the plants, but it is very, what the learning I would say was that to start from a diagnostics start diagnostics proactively. In fact, as myself, I was installing solar power plants on rooftops. But why we started this company was because we were seeing multiple issues in plant, and this was area which was being unaddressed a lot. So we are partnering with AT Energy to provide our services in Vietnam. We have done few projects there. Like for example, we did a EL testing of a 104 megawatt plant there. So for a newly commissioned plant, we have done O&M consultancy services and HOTO services as well for a 40 megawatt plant, and O&M consultancy services for a 118 megawatt plant. And we plan to grow further more over there, because what we see is that there's a lot of potential for performance improvement, especially during the initial stage of the plant, with issues like grid curtailment, or if someone wants to add energy storage to the whole service, or if there are any potential improvement areas in the plant which are there. So that is why we took this conscious decision of stepping in this direction of coming to Vietnam. We'll be happy to connect with everyone later during the break session. I will now hand over to Priyanshi. Thanks a lot, everyone, for kindly hearing us out. Looking forward to connect with you. Priyanshi, I think you're on mute.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable presentation. Now I would like to call Mr. Supa Vaishnagar, who is the Country Director, Supa Energy Corporation, to give his presentation. Welcome on screen, sir, Mr. Supa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Priyanshi. Okay, I will present in another perspective of the owner or investor in Vietnam. Everyone can see my slide clearly, right? Yes?
Yes, it's visible properly. You can continue.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I will talk about, I will call BESS, the Battery Energy Storage System, at the integrated technology for utility scale. Okay, so here my name, Super. The meaning as super is Indo-European language, which means superior. Okay, I will start with the super. Anyone can see, right? Okay, everyone. Okay, I will. Sorry. Okay, I will share a bit about the Super Energy Corporate. It's a Thai company. We registered in Thailand in the stock market 2005, but company start 10 years before. Our business target on the first in the solar energy. We have, I think, really the biggest of the solar plant in Thailand, nearly 700 megawatt, and we have very good experience to produce the energy from the waste. So in Thailand right now we have 64 megawatt. Even we are not number one, but we are going to the top number one of the in Thailand of the waste energy. Up before, not only solar and waste, we still have the water system, and we also would like to produce energy from the green resources. And this is the project in Thailand. Okay, we are back to the super energy in Vietnam. We start 2017. 4 years ago, we signed contract with the partner for the wind and develop project. And later on, we have the solar project in the pipeline. We start in 2018 and we finish in 2019 for the 5 solar plants. And later we also we finished 4 project and finished another 1 project in 2019, and we acquired another project. So in total, we have in that time 6 solar project, and we acquired a new project, Lock Mim, that I just show you. We finished 550 megawatt. In total, super for the solar farm, we have 836.72 megawatt. We could not say we are the biggest, but we believe that now we produce many energy. We produce energy from solar is quite a high number in Vietnam. And we also have the small project for the rooftop, as we plan to have 10 megawatt per year. But however, with COVID, we could not enlarge our business much on the rooftop, and because of the power curtailment and a lot of solar in Vietnam, so we also have to consider how to move on. For the wind, I will not talk much. So because of we have under construction for the 3 or 4 wind project, and expecting to COD within end of this year, or some project will next year. Okay, that in general of the super. A part of that in Thailand, we also launched a project already. It's the first Thai company who we produce the energy from, not produce, sorry, we will supply the electricity from the battery energy storage system. We got the EGAT PPA and already signed the EPC. The project now starting in the design and purchasing, and will be construct and finish of the COD next year. Investment of this project around $70 million, and to produce from the solar 49 megawatt, and this on ground farm of the solar, and it back up for 1 megawatt of biogas. That is the condition of the EGAT, or Electricity Authority of Thailand, who forced to have the system must be firm supply for 24 hours and fixed for 13 hours with no stopping. Okay, so that's why we need to supply the battery for 136 megawatt hour for energy storage system. The detail I could not talk much. It is the first show for super. Next year will be the showcase that will be implemented in Thailand, and we also expect to make the project like this in Vietnam in further. So I will talk a bit about energy storage. That how they could solve the problem of Vietnam. If you look in the Vietnam, that is the long close of the of the sea shore, and from the country from 500 kV north to the south, and is the backbone of the energy. And it's not like they have 2 lines already and construction for another third. The problem is not yet finished regarding they still have the forest land use, and there are so many things. So, but however, we also we are facing that's a problem of the construction of 500 kV right now. They have the big power curtailment in the system as well. Okay, because of the energy cannot conduct well from the north to the south or from the middle to the north or to the south for distribution system. So what is BESS or battery energy storage system? This is a recommendation. Should we have a battery in everywhere for put in the substation or put in the solar panel to serve the energy to make the quality of energy better? That is the short term of the solution to make not loss on of the energy. In power curtailment in many solar plants in Vietnam, they could not supply, even they can produce nearly 100%, but EVN can accept some project only 60 or 70%, some can have maximum 80 or 90. That's the thing we should talk and we should discuss in further. In this afternoon, I saw some of MOT talking about that we have mechanism to have battery to put in existing solar farm or the new solar farm. We are also waiting for new mechanism how it could be. Okay, if it like we can do in Thailand, we have no doubt to do it. That's the thing. So I will come to very fast conclusion, not to waste your time. To benefit of, we can make the power kit with the ESS layer to have less of additional power plant in pipeline because in Vietnam they have so many solar plant and end of this year they have the huge number of the wind project that we supply to the grid. If we can have to balance, if we can balance of the energy in the national grid by the battery, that will benefit of Vietnam or any country in the world. If you have surplus of the renewable energy, that is, they cannot come on 24 hours. But if you put a battery and to serve to make it for the balance of power, that is the interesting. That is why we also make the first pilot project in Thailand already. So we also aim to make more and more in Vietnam or even in Thailand after the first success of the project. So we can say that is to make the better power quality. And of course, if we make like this, you look around with the COVID right now in worldwide because of people say that from the global warming, right? So how to make the less carbon dioxide emission and running for the conventional power plants at the peak efficiency or maximum, we should use the renewable energy and support by the battery system. So in the conclusion, we also believe that the battery solar system and also integrate with the solar plant or another wind or other green energy, that would be the future solution for the power in the world. And even we also not only for battery, we still have pump hydro thermal solars, lead acid also not too bad to support in some of the area of the cheaper battery solution. And recently here, that's the lithium ion battery is very rapid of the price adoption, and it's come very fast to subsidize the market, and I believe that we can use it more and more in future. Not only the EV car, but for the utility uses, we also think that it could be the right answer. And again, even lead acid also now or flow battery will be the new technology. We also expect to see in the next 3 or 4 years with the price going down. And of course, the business model for on of energy or renewable energy will be changed in 2 or 3 years. That's what we expect. Again, this is the license to operate of the super CSR or corporate social responsibility. We do everywhere what we have with the plant commodity. We keep, okay, we not do the takes, we keep on the thing that we can keep in even in hard time of the COVID. Okay, thanks for your listening. That's the end of my presentation. I would return back to Bijanchi, right? So you will have another section. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Silpa, for this wonderful presentation. Let us proceed ahead with our panel discussion on the big tech trends tech trends shaping large-scale solar. So the session experts who have joined us for this session are Mr. Super Vasayaraj, who is the country director, Super Energy Corporation, and also the session chair for the day. Mr. Lim Shang Boon, who is the Pacific head of product and marketing APAC, China Solar Asia Pacific. Mr. Do Huang Huang, who is the sales manager of Vietnam, Goodwe. Mr. Sam Zing, who is the regional sales director, Longi Solar. Mr. Frank Huang, who is the CEO and executive director of Sanseep Group. Mr. Udayaditya Shom, who is the managing director, C and Head Sales and Supply Chain APAC, Juvi Renewable Energy. And we have Mr. Prakash Suratkar, who is the co-founder and CEO of PV Diagnostics. So with this, I would like to hand over to Supa sir for taking the discussion ahead.
Okay, thank you, Bianchi. I have to start with the topic. Sorry, the sound is okay. It's okay.
Yes, sir, you can continue.
Okay. Can I call you Mr. Lim, right? Lim Xiang Bun, correct?
Hi, sir. Yes,
yeah,
correct.
I'm not called correctly. And good afternoon, Do, right? Do, am I called correct?
Yes, is my family name. My first name is Phương.
Phương, okay. I better
think
call.
you also know Vietnamese.
Yeah.
I heard you speak Vietnamese in several conference already.
Nói tiếng Việt một chút. And Sam and Frank, right? And Mr. Chom, okay? Am I correct?
Yeah.
And last, Mr. Bakash. Okay.
Yes.
Prakash, okay. At first, you call everyone the name correctly. So we come to the portion of the big tech thing, okay? So my question start with how large of the scale solar plants will look in next 4 years. So I think everyone also I would like to invite everyone to share about this. Who want to start first? Okay, with the door, right? Okay, you are the president of Vietnam. What do you think about the big market of the solar in the big from now to 2025?
I think the solar market in Vietnam at the moment there are two driving sectors. The first one is for the government policy, and the second is that it's also for the economic and industry loss consumption. And you say that in the national power plant, there are several of power development, and the most optimistic scenario is that the solar power can reach even adding more around 9 gigawatt from now to 2025. And the standard scenario is also around 1.5 gigawatt. That is general statistics. And about the technology, the development of solar technology is also more advanced and smarter, and also the cost was more and more effective. That is my general point of view. And for detail in inverter, if you will ask, then I also can talk more later.
I quite agree with you. That is technology. So we will like the answer of this. I would like to go to the PV producer, Mr. Lim, right? What's your idea? And after that, Mr. Sam, I need you to present that in the view of the PV producer. What is your idea beyond this is the market in Vietnam? Okay,
Yeah,
who first?
maybe I'll start first. Yeah, thank you, sir. So I think in terms of the large scale projects, so we have seen over the last 2 years, Vietnam has been developing very fast. So there's a lot of installation that has been ongoing, and most of it has already completed. So going forward, probably the readily available land might become a challenge for this kind of large scale solar. So like I think one of the speakers mentioned earlier, one of the next possibility will be on the floating solar possibility. So we might see different kind of application that will come up to replace these so-called ground-mounted kind of projects by using other available spaces. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. How about you? With Mr. Sam, how about you, Sam?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So this is Sam from Longju Solar. So actually, in my point of view, so I think larger scale will definitely be a future trend in the market, especially in Vietnam market. So because as we can see last year, so Vietnam developed a lot, and also for next year it should be another big year for Vietnam after new policy launched. So also from the supplier side, so we also prepare a lot for the larger scale. So it not means only ground mounted. It also means we also have a lot of floating project in Vietnam as well. So from the supply side, we also do a lot of preparation for these big opportunities. So I think for the technology side, so in the future, in the next 2 to 3 years, the N-type module will be the future trend for this big scale market.
Thank you very much. But I would like to listen from the view of the owner from San Siep, Mr. Frank, and another one from Mr. Chom at you from Jui. Okay, any idea of you in terms of technology, in terms of the investment? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Supa. I think for us, we agree on the part where large-scale solar is probably a trend forward. I think the word large is also relative in terms of size, right? Previously, if you talk about 10 years ago, 50 megawatts is considered large. But if you think about today, when we talk about large solar farm, for example, we are entering into projects in Malaysia with our partner Tenaga to explore a 700 megawatt solar farm. In Indonesia, more recently, we have also announced the world's largest floating PV solar farm at 2.2 gigawatt. I think to match the current largest solar farm in the world in Middle East as well. So the word large is relative, and different periods of time have different meaning. But I feel in terms of technology, just now you mentioned in your presentation about matching it with the BESS, such that we can overcome the intermittency of solar to allow for 24/7 stable, non-intermittent power. I believe that is a trend moving ahead.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Shome, right? May I call you correctly? Shome.
Thank you, Khun Supa. You can call me Shom or you can call me Uday as well. That's my first abbreviated first name, whichever works for you. Shom Uday is fine, or either Shom. Coming from a very large-scale global EPC background, I tend to completely agree with what Frank just said before me. When we started in Vietnam in 2018, 50 was a fairly large benchmark. Today, we are bidding for projects which are of the order of 100 to 150 megawatts in the country. And I think that's only going to increase on the days forward. At the same time, we have to be mindful of also the size of the land available, as well as the grid evacuation available. So while growing big is an important tool to scale up and reduce the levelized cost of energy in the face of continued reduction in tariff. At the same time, we have to also be careful that, first of all, we cannot build a large project in a contiguous piece of land. We are currently bidding for projects which is, say, for example, 150 megawatt single project, but built over 3 different parcels. They are close by, but certainly not contiguous. So getting land access in between, carrying the power from land parcel A to parcel B, these are all logistical challenges. These are all technical challenges, as well as maintaining the projects in the long run. And also, if something goes wrong with a very large inverter, a significant part of the project goes down in one shot. I recently had an issue with one of our Indian projects, which is under a long-term maintenance, where out of a 100 plus megawatt project site, a 4 MVA transformer suddenly went off. It is a very unlikely situation, but it does happen. Now, when that happens, you can see almost 2 to 3% of your generation coming from a single transformer can go down in a jiffy. And when the market is so tight, your tariffs are so narrow, your margins of error are also becoming increasingly smaller and smaller. So I think that's a fine line. I'd say a tightrope walking as we go forward. Our margin of error in choosing components and choosing EPC partners and choosing project sizes and vendors are going to be increasingly dependent on the reliability of the projects, of the components, and their long-term mean time before failure is going to play a very, very important role in this overall exercise. Because as we go forward, our tariffs are only going to go south from here onwards and not go up. That's all from this stage.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have to come back to Mr. Do regarding the new technology or the technology breakthrough in inverter. What your idea that could support about the market in Vietnam or in the world in the next 3 or 4 years from now? Okay, Mr. Do, please.
You can see that the first development of Vietnam in solar in 2019 is from a large scale of utilities, and most of the inverter used at that time is central inverter. But from last year, both in utility scale and especially in C&I scale, they are changing to a string inverter. So that is the first trend of technology. But the power of a string inverter last year is normally less than 200 kilowatt. From this year, sorry, from next year, next several years, almost the string inverter should be from 200 or even over 300 kilowatt per hour.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Bakash, you are waiting for a long time. I saved the best for you. So now we come to the battery energy storage system. I need you to have overview about because you come from I think you are very expert also in PV and solar. What your idea about this? It could be fixed or could be support about the solar farm or not in future.
Yes, I definitely support solar farms and I expect it to grow in a large scale. But what concerns me here is that the quality. What's going to happen is that there's going to be more and more price pressure about about giving the energy at lower cost. At the same time, we wanted to develop these solar parks at a very short intervals. So there will be going to be a lot of issues in quality is what my fear is. If we don't take care of quality at every stage of putting the solar parks, be it a module, be it a structure, be it a cable, be it other viewers material. Quality is supreme, and if this is compromised at every stage because of the pressure of time and cost, then we might have a large solar plant, but they may not generate energy that is expected to generate. That's what my concern is. And I also find that there is a great rush for making big modules of 600 watt, 700 watt, 1 kilowatt modules. But I don't see the quality data available for these modules in the same rate. It's other concern I have. Okay, the currents which are going to flow through modules are going to be very large, causing hotspots very easily because of large currents. And this is going to be a reliability issue over a period of time, is what my concern is.
Thank you.
That's what I would
How
like to
about
add.
you, Frank? Frank, what do you think in your idea that you also from Sunsafe that as the investor, what's your idea beyond this thing?
I think the inverter today is definitely one very important um, segment of the key equipment in solar farms. But I believe that is not the only restriction nowadays. When we look at the large scale solar, whether or not for example, our floating PV that we are looking at in Batam is a 2 gigawatt project. Even when we evaluate whether between string inverters and central inverters, we cannot get away with the fact that we need an MV transformer, right? So because of that MV transformer requirement, we thought maybe it makes sense to have the MV transformer together with a central transformer because we are going to have the batch anyway. So the transformer considering completely changed the choice of the inverters. So, but that is very unique to our floating PV and the large scale aspect of it. I will say that other aspects are becoming more and more important. Not just the inverter. The inverter considerations, I believe the trend is the inverter string. Even the string inverters are getting bigger and bigger as well. All right. So this is to minimize the BOS cost. But in terms of the consideration on the system level, I believe now more than just an inverter, there are a lot more considerations today. Yeah, as we move towards bigger systems.
How about battery, Frank? How about battery?
I think battery is a very interesting, BESS is a very interesting to see in the next couple of years how it will take off because there are simply so many different technology outcomes, all right, the choice that you can make today. Other than lithium-based technology, you are also looking at even things like liquefied air, all right, technology. In caves, last time they used to store the compressed air in caves. Now they can store it in tanks, all right, and make it a very competitive. But return to the round trip efficiency is what we are looking at. More recently, there are even ion batteries, all right, ion batteries from Form Energy and other similar new startups that are breaking into the scene to promise a new lower levelized cost of storage as well per megawatt hour. So I think the technology choices is out there. Whether or not each technology can make it in, I think the next few years will be quite important to see how other aspects in terms of bankability, in terms of speed to commercialization, and of course the market response on how this technology, how easy is it to deploy in certain location, I think will determine a lot of this technology roadmap for BESS. But I strongly believe moving ahead, we are going to change the very nature of solar because solar is intermittent in nature, and more customers, especially utility grids, are taking Singapore as an example. Singapore grid is demanding that the green energy is coming into Singapore, but they don't want it to be intermittent. They want it to be dispatchable, not stable, 24/7, right? So long duration storage will be one key factor to consider, not just on flattening the curve, but and making it non-intermittent, but long duration. We're talking about 24 hours 7, right? That type of duration to allow for non-intermittency, which is again, I said, going against the very nature of solar, will be the trend moving ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Anyone else
I
that
agree.
want to add? Yeah, please go ahead. Anyone else, please.
So I agree with Mr. Frank, and that's going to be the trend going ahead. We would like to get 24/7 power. By combining solar and battery and maybe hydro or wind, and that's going to be the trend going ahead. That's right. I agree with him.
How about you, Lim and Mr. Sam? As you are the PV producer, What's your idea about this? Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Suba. Yes, I think yes, Mr. Frank has made a very good point. So
Yeah.
in terms of the stability of solar power, so going ahead, yes, we do strongly also think that battery is going to play a significant part in the whole overall energy management kind of solution in terms of this so-called power producers, how we are going to supply power to the grid, how are we going to store the power, and how to dispatch the power at the right time where the demand requires it. Yeah.
Okay. Sam, you want to add something more, or please? Because I think quite interesting topic.
Yes, actually, I also agree. I also very agree to Frank's point of view about ESS. I think this is also a future trend in the industry, and for from the supplier side, what we can do is how to how to match the ESS on the grid. So I think this is the future. Future. This is the future. I think this is a very. This is the future task for the module supplier. This is my point of view.
Okay. Last meter, show me, right? Utaya Didya. Okay. You want
Yeah.
to add up at the last?
I'm already seeing significant switch towards the need from the mining industry, as we are very active in Australia and both in the on grid and behind the meter space. I see a significant switch coming from the behind the meter space, especially from the mining segment, looking for interdependency and reliability of solar coupling with battery. So I'm pretty convinced that going forward, we'll see even best modeling coming into play even for large 100 megawatt plus opportunities as well. Some of our initiatives in Australia are already starting to take into consideration battery storage. Of course, not going to the level of 24/7 at this stage, but at least to some extent, starting with a 4-hour or 6-hour constant power development, power delivery beyond the sunrise hours is going to be the need of the hour. So I think that's certainly the right direction for solar. The next step. I concur with Frank. That's going against the grain of solar, but well, we have to use it as the market demands. And from that perspective, I think some sort of reliability, some sort of stability and dispatchability is going to be a key driver for solar to be successful in the long term.
Okay, thank you. I think it's quite help the big picture. The last question, because we're running with out of the time. So I think that's maybe start from you again, Mr. Chomi, Uttayatidya. I could not put.
Call me Uday. Call me Uday.
Yeah. So how about you think about how they are expected to evolve further and to be introduced at the designing phase? I think quite important question as we are like you are like Dewey, also investor and EPC. What your idea? And okay, and other people who want to add up, please go ahead. Okay.
Look, I'm primarily in this forum as an EPC, not so much as an investor. The investment or the project development divisions work in other geographies, mostly in US or partly in Australia. But my role primarily is from the EPC angle, and my belief or when we approach an EPC project as a designer, we try to put ourselves in the shoes of the investor, which means not to look at the cheapest cost of or cheapest power watt cost, but the cheapest kilowatt hour cost. So that is what drives us, and sometimes that also makes us not the cheapest of the solution providers. But we have over 20 years of experience in this business, and we have seen this both from the I'll not say both, rather from 3 different angles: from a project developer in certain markets, as an EPC in most of the markets, and also as a long-term O&M service provider. I can I can vouch for the importance of all three in delivering a good IRR or a decent IRR for the project in the long run. Because trust me, when investors put their money on a project for 25 years, they are not looking at super high IRRs. They are more looking at levelized, consistent, dependable IRRs. I think that's what a solar investor looks for. If a solar investor was looking for 25 to 50% IRR, he would be putting his money on IT stocks, not in solar. When people put money on solar, they rely on the predictability and long-term guarantee of a sustained fixed return, something which will not fluctuate over time, which will not drastically go up, but which will also not drastically go down. And to achieve that in this world, it's equally important to pay weightage on the selection of components as well as on the right O&M practices. I can tell you from my O&M experience in Asia Pacific, a large part of our O&M portfolio, which we have roughly about a gigawatt of O&M portfolio in APAC right now, and a significant part of that actually comes back to us as a third-party O&M. Quite a few of them actually come back to us from projects which we lost as an EPC contractor. So when projects as an EPC contractor, we are not too unhappy sometimes because we know that they will not be built so well at a lower cost, and they could come back to us as a third-party O&M, and we gain from it. So this is my key takeaway from after spending close to 2.5 decades in this industry, that do the basics right. When our prices are slashing, the commodity prices are going up, the energy tariff is going down, the critical thing is to do the basics right. And do not try and achieve something unthinkable. Add up your designs correctly, add up your costs right, add a decent margin, and make a project which will be sustainable, which will not be the cheapest, but which will also be the lowest cost of energy over 25 years. That's going to be the driver. That should be the driver of the whole industry if it has to be successful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Uday. Have the good picture about that. Okay, I need you one more about this, Frank, because you also from the investor, Sansiep. You want to add something more? Because Uday have speak very well about this. Okay.
Yeah, I guess from investor point of view, in terms of, I think one of the main conundrum that we are always looking for is between chasing projects and balancing that with bankability of the projects. A lot of these new technologies that's coming online that we are pursuing, I just don't talk about quite a few of them. I'm not sure whether the financial institutions, they are caught up in terms of the experience to allow the bankability to be evaluated. So I think on that respect, the LTAs that we are now engaged with, together with the OEs and the various consultancy company, I think a lot of catch-up work to do in terms of understanding the technology, understanding the bankability, and convincing the financial institutions to be involved. And this makes it even more complex when you talk about projects like cross-border projects, which involve different jurisdiction, different legislation for and rules for equipment across two markets. So I guess this will be an ongoing balancing act between bankability and business development for us. Yeah.
Okay. I want more from Prakash, because you are PV diagnostic. Maybe you have another different angle from your perspective. Maybe you can add some idea about this matter, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Khun Supa. My expectation is that from asset management perspective, right, there are two things that are going to happen. One is, as we go ahead, right, there'll be a lot of since there's a lot of cost pressure, most of the things that's going to happen, in asset management are going to be more and more, what I should say, unmanned. Like, for example, instead of having a security officers, in the big gigawatt kind of a plant, we might have a drone that will fly after every 15 minutes and take a note of any security issues are there in the plant or not, right? Then the other thing is, for example, you are talking about, say, soiling. So there'll be AI based tools available, at a plant level, which will tell you, okay, this is the time to go and have your robots on to take care of soiling issues. So this is one direction of asset management thing. The other thing is, as we go ahead, we might have asset combinations. Like we might have a batteries plus solar plus wind, and the asset management companies might look at all the three assets together, right? Okay, and that has to again come in design of the solar plants. How are we going to do battery sizing? How are we going to have round the clock power generation? How are we going to have the management of this all these three assets together? So I think going ahead, asset management will be more and more digital, be more and more unmanned, and it's will rely more and more on machines rather than human beings. And again, one has to consider the possibility of looking at other assets like battery storage or hydropower along with the solar assets. Is what I expect to happen.
Thank you. So I will give the to another from supplier like Longji, Mr. Sam, and after that I need Mr. Lim also answer in your perspective of supplier, and last is Mr. Phương. Sorry, I also call you Mr. Do. One by one, okay? Mr. Sam and Mr. Lim and Mr. Phương, you not the long answer, okay? And then we finish this section, okay? You answer in your, because I, as the engineer or electrical engineer, I think I do believe that design is the first step that everyone explained. If you do in the not in the right way, is you make the plan, solar plan not in the good shape, okay? Start from one by one, okay? Who want to start first? Sam or Phương? Okay, please.
My one first, right?
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah, no
Yes,
problem.
recently from our Vietnam office as well as our headquarters, we analysis a lot about product from PV vendors. That there are two sides of PV vendors. The first one is like Longji with 182 cell side, Longji, Jinko, and GA. And the second side is from China. They they are promoting the 210 cell, and Canadian also. So based on the analysis, we are not already prepare a best match string inverter for utility scale. That is our good be 250 kilowatt. And we have two versions. Best matrix, the lack of current, because right now the current is also a big problem with many inverter vendor. There's a few inverter vendor can adapt with the large power, and as I saw in the technical specs, the minimum for a string current is from 50, but right now we also have the product to satisfy even the string current reach nearly 20 ampere. So we confident that we can well serve the development of PV panel revolution from now until at least 2023, and maybe we also product roadmap until 2030, together with the Vietnam National Development Plan.
Okay, thank you. Who next? Mr. Lim or Mr. Sam? Okay, one of you.
Yeah,
please.
hi, Mr. Subhash. Maybe I'll go first. Okay, so I think from supplier point of view, yes, I think I would say it's a natural evolution of technology. So if we don't innovate, then there wouldn't be new modules or new technology that comes into the market. So everything takes a bit of time to get the so-called optimization and the stability in all the projects. So even if we look back, who will think that we are using large wafer for high power modules? When we look back like 10 years ago, module power is only what 200 plus watt compared to now 600 watts. So it's the effort and the continuous innovation from the different technology providers and the different suppliers. So from Trina side, we still believe that yes, driven by the lower and lower system costs and the low tariff. So deployment of new technologies to lower the costs is a direction that the industry will be looking forward to on how to continuously reduce costs and at the same time maintain the same kind of reliability and uptime that we see from the previous experience of the solar project. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So now to Lim, right? Sorry.
Sam.
Go ahead. Sam, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So thanks, Ms. Supa. So actually from LONGi side, our plan is quite clear. So for the large scale in next year, especially for FIT3 in Vietnam, so we will provide our N-type technology to this market. Actually, there are three key advantage for this technology. So the first one is maximum energy yield. So it have higher bifaciality, lower temperature coefficient, and zero R&D, and also better low irradiance performance. Also, the second advantage is the better reliability. So we have the first year degradation is below 1%. Also, zero cell damage and smart soldering without cracks. Also, PID free. So the third one is system cost saving. So for N-type efficiency and power increase, 3.5% compared with mainstream product, which is N-type. It can save 3% of BOS cost with the same capacity. So, and also we will only focus on 182 millimeter wafer size modules because we think the most important is to increase the efficiency of the solar cells. So for LONGi side, we will aim to do more research and development on the cells efficiency. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's very interesting, and for me, I'm excited that to see the new technology and for the new design and the battery energy system to be integrated in the new system, and wait to see in the next year and next 2 years. Even the Vietnamese government not announced yet about the new policy or tariff. We are waiting and see. So I will thank you everyone. Somehow this state is really big, many people, but I think it's quite interesting. We can talk the whole day, but now we have to go back to meet Priyanshi. Thank you so much to give us opportunity to discuss together. Thank you,
Thank
Priyanshi.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to all our esteemed
Uh,
panelists for such an insightful session, sparing your precious time and extending your support for the event. And Super Sir, I would like to thank you for the moderating the session today. So, with this positive note, we are ending today's event, and we will see you again tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. The floor is open for networking for an hour now. Our team is available at table number 50 to explore future business opportunities with them. Till then, bye from our end, and please do take care of yourselves and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.